Good afternoon, class. My name is Casey Myers, and I did my research presentation on concussions. What is a concussion? Well, a concussion is a brain injury that happens after a massive blow to pretty much anywhere on your body. You don't necessarily have to be hit in the head in order to receive a concussion. You can be hit in the chest or in the neck or even in the legs, and your neck whipped back, and that can cause a concussion. Concussions are serious head injuries that pretty much are life-threatening after repetitive concussions. Once an athlete receives a concussion, you must immediately start taking concern and checking him every 5 to 10 minutes. Signs and symptoms of concussion: they'll have altered level of consciousness. It just depends on how severe the concussion is, depends on whether he's unconscious, or sometimes they don't even lose consciousness. There's going to be pain and pressure in the head, around the eyes, around the ears. It'll feel like a massive migraine headache. You'll have tingling and loss of sensation in your arms and legs, and sometimes you're not going to be able to move as much, and partial or complete loss of movement in any of your body part. The signs and symptoms of head and brain injury may not be apparent until hours later. So you may have an athlete that gets hit really hard and he may feel fine, and you may let him go back to play, but it could be 30 minutes, hour, or even the next day until that athlete starts to show signs and symptoms of a concussion. The recommendation is, once an athlete, if you think he's had a concussion or was hit hard, keep him out for a few plays, or even ask your local athletic trainer. Most schools have them. Some they have to call over there. But you want to get that athlete to be seen right away. Alright, so once an athlete receives a concussion, you want to assess him thoroughly. So you must be able to recognize yourself and interpret what the signs and symptoms of a head injury. So you must be aware and smart on your own in order to understand if he's injured or not. And if an athlete is unconscious, always assume that the neck is injured as well. So you never want to pick him up or move him. You just want to lay there, let him lay there flat on the back. Don't try to turn him, and wait until the immediate help comes. Here's some primary assessments. Without moving the athlete, because like I said, you don't want to cause a neck injury, you want to check his breathing. So you can check his pulse through his neck, his veins in his wrist. You can put your ear up to his head and mouth and see if the athlete is breathing. You want to also observe face color, skin conditions, pulse, breathing, pupils. Secondary assessment. So this is what you want to ask the athlete after he receives a concussion, or you think he has received a concussion. You want to ask him basic questions that you know he's supposed to remember and supposed to know. Therefore, if he starts getting them wrong, you know right away something is wrong. So I wrote down some basic questions that you should ask the athlete, such as, what is your name, how old are you, where are you at, what sport you're playing, what's the score, the month, the president. And you want to ask every 5 to 10 minutes. And you want to make sure every one of those answers are correct from the first time. So it's nice if you have a pencil and paper and jot down his answers as well, so you don't forget them. Here's some more secondary assessments. You want to test for the eyes. They're dilated or irregular pupils, blurred vision. See if he can see straight. Ask him, how many fingers am I holding up? It's old school, but simple things like that works. You want to check him with a flashlight. to see how his eyes accommodate rapidly to the light, and see if he can actually track that light, without moving his head or anything like that. A secondary assessment is a balance test. And I actually had to do one of these when I received my concussion. Of course, I failed it, but it's real standard, and like I said, the athlete should be able to do it before he's injured. So therefore, once you start giving them and he can't pass one, then he's done for the day and could be done for a week or even a month. But you just want to tell him to stand there with his eyes closed. You want him to stand on 1 foot, arms out, stand on 1 foot with eyes closed, finger to nose. You want him to hop on 1 foot. And the Babinski test, which is a reflex test. And what you do is you can get a pencil or a pen and just rub it on the arch of his foot, at the bottom of the foot. And his toe should be flexed up. But if it's not, then you know something's wrong. There's 6 classifications in concussions, and they're graded from 1 to 6. And grade 1 is the minor concussion. The athlete will have normal consciousness, won't have any memory loss, won't have any mild disorientation. Signs and symptoms are normally gone after 5 to 10 minutes, and is the most common concussion in sports. And it's actually one of the most dangerous as well, because grade 1 concussions are repeated more than any other one. So there could be an athlete who received a mild concussion, 20 minutes later he's fine, he goes back out there and boom, another concussion. 10 minutes later he's fine. So that's what you really have to be careful about, because he'll look fine physically and he'll be fine mentally, but that's where the brain trauma worsens after repetitive concussions. And then grade 2 is a little severe. He's got normal consciousness, but he will be confused, and he will have post-traumatic amnesia. Therefore, he won't answer some of them questions that he would have before the injury. And won't be able to recall events that have occurred before the time of the injury. And they'll have unsteadiness, dizziness, nauseous, and headaches. And grade 3 concussion, he's going to be normal conscious, he'll be confused, more post-traumatic amnesia, retrograde amnesia, therefore he won't know events before that it happened. And this is where they start getting serious. This is a grade 4 concussion. He will lose consciousness. He'll be referred to as a paralytic coma, that means he'll be out. It may be a short amount of time, but he was still unconscious. He'll definitely have post-traumatic amnesia and retrograde amnesia and post-concussion syndromes as well. And then grade 6 is death, that's pretty much can be caused by hard head trauma, bleeding in the brain, and it's pretty much catastrophic if you don't get the athlete to an athletic trainer in time. This is criteria on when to return to play. An athlete doesn't need to go on the field right away. You want to make sure he's got normal neurological functions as well as motor functions, normal balance, free of headaches, free of lightheadedness, free of dizziness, and free of seizures. And you just want him healthy as he was before the injury, so as a coach, you don't get sued in the future if you send your athlete on the field while he still has symptoms of concussions. This is when they should return to play. First concussion, if it's his first one, he must not have any symptoms. As soon as his symptoms are gone, he can start playing again. But if it's his second concussion, he must be symptom-free for at least 1 week before he even puts on pads or starts any physical activity. And third concussion is you terminate the season. He's no longer playing and he'll be sitting on the sidelines. And he may be able to play again next year if he's concussion symptom free for at least a year. For moderate, you want him to be at least symptom free for a week. For a second moderate concussion, you want him to be symptom free for a month. And then once again, that third concussion, you terminate the season, and he may or may not be able to play the following year. And for your severe concussions, you must be symptom free for a month, and after that, it's pretty much you're done for the season. Here's some of the long-term effects that I've learned about concussions, and it's really not really related to concussions, it's related to repetitive head trauma. Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which is also known as Lou Gehrig disease, is a rare neurological disease that involves all the nerve cells responsible for movement, such as walking, breathing, talking. And what it does, your whole body starts to shut down. And it could start in one arm, and it could be a year before it finally progresses to the rest of your body. But once you get that disease, it's pretty much a death wish, because there's no new cure for it, and so far people very rarely live once they are diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. And another one is chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is a progressive degenerate disease of the brain found in athletes with a history of repetitive brain trauma, including symptomatic concussions as well as asymptomatic subconcussive hits to the head. And back in the 60s, they thought only boxers really received this disease because they're so used to being hit in the head repeatedly. But after a couple of decades, they decided to test football players' brains after they passed on, and they are starting to see progressively the numbers in football players with CTE growing rapidly. And for instance, a couple of football players who's had it was Junior Seau. He was an all-pro linebacker. He actually killed himself because it makes you do things you're not normally supposed to do. And it's just a sad disease all in general. And this is where my information comes from, my work site. And the reason why I decided to talk about concussions, because it hits home to me. Like I said, I received one and back when I was in high school, and I just think it's important because as a coach, you want to be smart on what a concussion is and how to handle it, because you're not only looking out for yourself, but you have to look out for that athlete, and you don't want to put him into dangers any more than what he already has with a repetitive head trauma. So I think that's a major reason why I did it, and it's a growing concern not only in the NFL, but also in the high school ranks, the junior high, even Little League kids are starting to show signs of concussions at an early age, and that's really pretty dangerous. So this concludes my presentation.